Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. Today we're going to go ahead and go over how to install and set up the Excel Achieve XP Carbon Pro site. Alright you guys, so let's go ahead and take this old site off the bow. I'm going to roughly put together the new site so that it is as similar to my old site as possible, so that it'll cut down on any type of adjustments that I'm going to have to do while I'm setting it up. Alright, so we got the old site removed and the bracket for the new site installed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put together the new site, set it next to the old site, and sort of pre-adjust the new site so that whenever we put it on the bow and have to start adjusting it, we have a good starting point to go from. Alright you guys, so we got the new site disassembled in front of us. We're going to go ahead and start putting it together so that it matches the old site as much as possible. The first thing that we're going to put together is going to be the site and the site bar. So what I'm going to want to do first is look at the old site and look at the site bar in relation to the old site and try to match that up on the new site as much as possible. So we're going to try to kind of silhouette our old site onto our new site and try to match up the site bar and the site as much as possible just to give us a good starting point. So right here looks like as close as we're going to be able to get it. So we're going to go ahead and bolt this site bar down to the site, and then we'll start working on the scope. And snug it down. Alright, so now that we got our site and our site bar mounted together, we're going to use our old site to try to mirror the position for our scope housing on our new site. Alright, so I'm using the Excel AV25 scope housing, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the barrel that comes on the site, and I'm going to replace it with the barrel that is on the AV25. So you just loosen that screw up, slide the barrel out, and then you can just slide the scope housing barrel in. They have little etchings on this side of the C-clamp, so you can line that scope barrel up with the middle etching on that C-clamp, and then you can just tighten down the C-clamp and it'll stay in that position. Alright, so now that we got that tight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same process that I used for determining the position on the site with the position on the site bar, but I'm going to do that with the scope. So just to get it close, we're going to go ahead and kind of mirror the site on the old site and see where the scope is sitting in relation to where everything else is sitting on the old site. So it looks like I need to bring this barrel out some. Right now I have my windage at dead middle, so I can adjust it in either direction. So I want to get this as close to where my old site was as possible before I start having to adjust my windage. We're going to loosen that up, and then we're just going to adjust it out just a little bit. That's probably good. Center. And that looks pretty close. Might be off a little bit to the inside, but it's pretty close. So we'll leave it there for now. We're done with the old site, so we can set that to the side. Alright, so now that we have everything installed on the site the way that we want it to be, we're going to go ahead and throw in our lens into our scope housing. So we're going to go ahead and take the retainer ring out of this scope. So we're going to go ahead and throw our Feather Vision IR Perfectium lens into the scope housing. We're going to set that inside the lens retaining ring. Now once that's inside the lens retaining ring, you can just set that inside the scope housing, just like that. So we're going to go ahead and just screw that on to the site, just like that. Alright, so the last thing you can do when you're mounting the new site to your bow to make it as similar to the old site as possible is you can try to match up the position of the sight bar on the mounting bracket to as close to the other site as possible so that the scope distance from the riser is approximately the same. So what I did here is I just put my sight below the new sight and since this is a 9-inch bar and this is a 6-inch bar, I knew the hole position on the new bar wouldn't be the same as the hole position on the old bar, so I had to adjust it back and forth until I found where it was the most similar. Alright guys, so we went ahead and threw the bow in the vise, got the bow perfectly level, so now we're going to go ahead and adjust our first and second axis. Alright you guys, so I have an L level leveled in both directions on my string. I have a shelf level leveled perfectly on my shelf, and then I also have a Hamskea third axis leveling tool connected to the sliding portion of my sight, which is also our first axis. So what we're going to have to do is adjust our slider portion of the sight so that it is level in correlation with the string and the shelf of the bow. You're really focusing on the string more than the actual riser or the shelf of the bow, but if you can get both, then it doesn't hurt anything. Alright guys, so as you can see, the level on our Hamskea third axis leveling tool is ran off way to the right. So what we're going to need to do to adjust that is loosen this top screw right here and loosen this bottom screw right here, which will allow the sight to pivot on that sight bar so that it can level this first axis. So once you get it in the right position, you can just tighten down that top screw or bottom screw to just get it to lock into place somewhat. So we'll go ahead and get it level. So that looks pretty good. That's pretty much perfect. So we're going to go ahead and just tighten down that bottom one. So now our first axis is leveled with our bow. Alright you guys, so as you can see, we have the first axis perfectly leveled. Now we're going to have to adjust our second axis, which is our scope bubble level, and try to get that leveled with the other two levels. Alright you guys, so to adjust the second axis on the Excel Achieve XP, you're going to have to loosen both of these two screws so that you can adjust your sight and pivot it in this direction to adjust your bubble. So you're going to go ahead and loosen up your second axis screws. Alright, so with the two screws loosened, you should now be able to adjust your scope up and down to level or unlevel your bubble inside the scope housing. So right there looks pretty level. Everything is working together. So we're going to go ahead and tighten those two bolts back down. Alright, so now that we have our first and second axis adjusted, we're going to go ahead and take this sight outside and we're going to adjust our third axis. Alright you guys, so we're going to go ahead and draw back and take aim at the string using only the rod on the Hamskea third axis leveling tool, and we're going to move that rod up the string as high as we can and then down the string as high as we can, while also focusing on the level inside the scope housing. If the bubble stays level while we're aiming high and low, it means our third axis is leveled properly. If the bubble comes out of level when we're aiming high and low, it means our third axis is improperly leveled and we need to make an adjustment. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and draw back, aim as high as we can on the string, make sure that our sight is level. It's probably not going to be. We'll make adjustments after we let down, and then we'll draw back again. We can check it low, make an adjustment if we need to, and repeat the process until we get our sight leveled up, down, and horizontal. Alright, so we're just a little bit out to the left. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and make an adjustment on our third axis. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to go ahead and loosen both of the screws right below the third, which means third axis on the sight. We're going to loosen those up. We're going to adjust the sight in or out, which will affect the way that it levels up or downhill. So we're going to go ahead and loosen that one and loosen that one. And then what we're going to do is just slightly adjust the scope, tighten the screws back down, and then repeat until we get it to where it stays level up and downhill. Alright, well that's pretty much perfect. Alright you guys, so we got everything done so far. We've got the sight installed and we have everything perfectly leveled out. The last thing that I like to do before I call the sight totally good and I just start sighting in and practicing with it is I like to go ahead and torque tune. I'm not going to walk you through the entire torque tuning process that I do just because I'm running out of daylight, but I will tell you how I do it. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my sight bar in and out from the sight bar mounting bracket, and then I'm going to shoot 2 shots without any torque in my grip at all, and then I'm going to shoot two shots torquing the grip this way, and then I'm going to shoot 2 shots torquing the grip this way, and I'm going to do that in every location on the sight bar, and I'm going to mark it on the target so that I can refer back to it after I'm done doing every location, and then I can pick the one that has the best grouping. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take 6 shots here just to give an example. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and torque our grip right. Now we're going to go ahead and torque the grip left. Alright you guys, so there is 6 shots. We'll go down to the target and I'll explain to you kind of what I look for. Alright guys, so this is pretty much how I set up my target for torque tuning. The only difference is I will generally put a piece of paper between each one of these pieces of tape so that after I shoot each location I can pull my arrows and I can still see later on where my arrows impacted on each location of the sight. So basically what I'll do is I will do hole or position number 1 on my sight bar in relation to the sight bar mounting bracket right here, and then hole number 2, hole number 3, hole number 4, and so on. And then at the end, after I've shot every location, I will go back and study each of the pieces of paper, see which ones had the tightest grouping, and then I will choose where to mount my sight bar on that mounting bracket based off of what I see on the pieces of paper. So these are the 6 arrows that I just shot. These are the first 2 that I shot with no torque, the second 2 that I shot with right torque, and third 2 that I shot with left torque. Based on my experience with torque tuning, you can get a lot tighter of a group than this, so I'm going to have to go through each location on my sight bar until I find the one that shoots the best. I'll mount the sight there, and then I can sight in the bow and be ready for competition. Thank you guys for checking out the video and sticking through it. If you like it, please do like, share, subscribe, comment, do all that fun stuff, and then save the video to your watch later list if you're interested in referring back to the video later. Thanks again you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.